Rockstar gang, what up? What up? Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I need to change this real quick. Hold on one second here. Gotta add my new overlay. Give me a second. We're gonna delete this one. We're gonna put up the new one. There we go. Appreciate you guys with your patience. What up, man? Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor again, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everyone going to be here, man. We're going to dive deep into this whole thing about Ejiro Evero because there's a lot of context that can go around when we talk about Ejiro Evero. Okay, there's a lot of context that can go around. We're talking about Ejiro Evero. A lot of context. And so we're really going to dive deep into that. Dadgum, what is going on with StreamYard, man? They are messing up my audio. They're messing up all kinds of stuff. All right, well, we got it fixed now. I'm sure you can hear me better now. But, man, again, make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the Rockstar Report. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, there's so much context in this whole Evero thing. And I really want to take a deep dive into that. You know, we talk about this defense, and you could talk about it's like, where do you start when you talk about this defense, right? Where do you start? I'll say this. Appreciate that, Jarius. Jarius says, pound that like button. Like the Panthers pound those Falcons yesterday. If the chat's going off like it was yesterday, guys, if you really want to get your comments heard or hear me respond to them, you're going to have to start sending super chats, or you're going to have to start becoming members. Anybody who becomes a member, by the way, I'm going to start giving blue wrenches to be a moderator on the channel. But if you guys want to obviously become a member or super chat, that's the best way to get your but every member is going to start getting a wrench, and I'm going to find out who my members are, and I'm going to start giving them blue riches. Great move. Matthew said, Machado says, great moves. They gave up Burns, Luvus, and Luvus. Today, Hunt. What do you mean, Panther Gal? Today, Hunt. If you're talking about Robert Hunt, we didn't give up. They didn't give up Hunt. Or if you mean to get Hunt, then so to speak, then yeah. Honestly, I think they would have got Hunt even without Burns. I think if they would have re-signed Luvu, they still would have got Hunt. So to pay Hunt. Yeah, no, they could have paid Luvu and gotten Hunt. That's the thing, Panthers gal. They just couldn't afford Burns and Hunt. It just wouldn't work. They could have paid Luvu. They actually offered more money to him. We offered him $39 million. Washington offered him 36, and he chose to go play for Dan Quinn instead. Probably a smart move. I'm watching Raw on my second stream, so I'll be in and out. I appreciate that, Jadarius. I understand. I actually am going to have to go rewatch that tonight, Jadarius. So no spoilers on the Netflix Raw. I'm going to have to go watch that later on. But yeah, so there's a lot of context, and you know, obviously the Panthers are to retain Evero. Now, there has been some sources out there, apparently, that they're going to retain him, but apparently there is a source out there that I heard that basically, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently they're going to retain him, but under certain conditions. Like if he wants to stay here, I've heard it's under certain conditions. Like if it's his roster. I heard something about that they're going to get some of his staff, and we're going to bring in different staff to go along with his staff. Now, I don't know if that's true. Obviously, that is just a rumor. Okay, so we don't know if that's true. So let's put this in context real quick. Okay. Let's put this in context real quick. Let's start off in last season. Okay. Let's start off in last season. Okay. You start off with last season and our let's start off at the off season. Okay. You lose Brian Burns. But if we go look at Brian Burns, we're really going to get into this. And I'm dead ass serious. I told y'all this, we were going to get into some major context in this. If we go, let's go look at Brian Burns' stats. Now, did we really lose a lot from Brian Burns? Statistically, did we really lose a lot out of Brian Burns? Because Brian Burns technically went to a better situation defensively with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau. So did we really lose a lot? Right? Did we really lose that much? You know what I mean? So no, we really didn't lose that much. We really didn't lose that much if we look at Brian Burns. Okay? We go to his grades, 79.2 overall, pass rushing grade 82.8, run defense still below. 48 solo tackles. Okay, second for edge rusher, so not bad. 8th for sacks, 13 assisted total tackles, which is 11th, and then 2 forced fumbles, which puts him at 8. Total pressures 61, quarterback hits 10, 43 quarterback hurry ups, 4 batted passes. So really, the tackles are higher for him, right? But did we really lose anything out of Brian Burns? Because that was the narrative. The narrative was that this defense was going to be atrocious because we lost Brian Burns, we lost Frankie Luvu, we lost Jeremy Chin, we lost all these guys. And but we knew that it was a depleted defense. You brought in these band-aids to replace these guys. But DJ Wanham was a nice surprise. Clowney definitely stepped up. But you could also say that the injuries were even worse. Like if we go, you go look at this defense from a standpoint for statistical fashion. Okay. For statistical fashion, and I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull up our defensive stats. This is from Jared Feinberg off of Twitter. This is our defensive stats right here. This is our total defense. Panthers final defensive stats that we finished this year. $31 points per game. 404 yards per game. I think I think that means 6. I think YPP means 6 yard per play. 59 total touchdowns allowed. An EPA of 0.1 is crazy. Now, passing yards per game, 224.7 yards per pass per play. I think that's what that is for passing, or yards per pass. 7.1 in that category. EPA of 0.1. Not good. Dead last in rushing yards per game. Dead last in 5.2 rushing yards per play. Yeah. This screams a lot of different things. Now, okay. So we went off last season. They went all in on the offense for Bryce, right? They went all in on the offense for Bryce. They went and got Robert Hunt. They went and get Damian Lewis. They went and paid all these guys. Right? You traded away Dante Jackson. He goes and ends up balling out over there in Pittsburgh. You got Jeremy Chin balling out in Washington, had a Pro Bowl year. You lose Frankie Luvu, has a Pro Bowl year in Washington. The only person that's getting paid more than them that didn't really have a Pro Bowl year is Brian Burns. He had an efficient year. I'll give him that, but it wasn't like he's that $30 million contract that the stats he put up there in New York. That ain't it. That ain't worth $30 million to me. I would have paid him at most. We could go look at Clowney and Wanum's stats and compare the two, but and compare it to I guarantee you could compare it to Brian Burns. Now I'm not going to say that Burns probably has more sacks than they do, but I mean Clowney and them ain't that far behind, man. They ain't that far behind. So you deplete this defense, but then you also got to put the injuries in consideration. You lose Derek Brown, probably your best defensive player on your team. You lose and we lose Shaq Thompson, a communicative leader of this team, right? And then you got Jordan Fuller, who can't stay on the field, can't stay healthy. You have you got DJ Wanum out till week 10. And then he was a nice surprise to come back too. And then you have Trevor Wallace go down with a couple games less in the season. You got 2 or 3 games left in the season. JC Horn doesn't play the last 2 games of the season. You lose Josie Jewell for a solid, what was it, 3 weeks, and then he comes back, and then you lose him again, right? Mike Jackson, I think, was serviceable at best. I don't think he's better than Dante Johnson. I thought he was at first, but I was wrong. I think Dante Jackson, sorry, not Dante Johnson, Dante Jackson. I think he's a better player. But is this the worst defense in NFL history? Some say it is. Some say it is. Now, again, we're putting this all into context, right? We talked about injuries. We talked about the offseason moves, went all in on offense. You have a depleted defense. And you also, basically, this defense, you Band-Aided it up. That's all you did. You just put Band-Aids on a wound. Okay? That's going to happen. That's going to happen. But also, you could put it on the coaching side of things as well. We really need to dive into this. You want to put context to it, let's put some context into it. Right? So basically, if we talk about this defense, if you go watch the first 6 weeks and you go rewatch game film of the first 6 weeks of the Carolina Panthers games, right? You go watch it. This Panthers defense crumbled. It's painful, and it was painfully honest. Whether you say it was the injuries or whether you say it was Evero working with practice squad players and the squad that he does have, but the defense was a total disaster in the first 6 weeks, right? And it just continued, right? But the blame has to fall somewhere, whether it's on Dan Morgan for not doing enough in this offseason to add depth on the defense enough to give Evero a nice cushion at least to get through this season until now, right? And heading into the offseason, right? And we were obviously thinking, like, what the hell was going on? Because Evero was brought into this situation, right? If we think about it, bro, he was brought in this situation. He had a lot of hype around him. He was supposed to be the next defensive minded, a guy who could turn this into a unit into something respectable. And it just continued to be an embarrassing display of misassignments, blown coverages, a run defense that was just non-existent, right? Well, I mean, we were getting gashed on the ground week in and week out, man. I mean, opposing running backs were having career days. It was just a walk in the park. Even for these average running backs, it was a walk in the park. We had rookie running backs just strolling through. You could even go look at the Atlanta games, Bijan and Tyler Algier. Like I said, or even random backups. It didn't matter. If you were an NFL running back this year and you played the Carolina Panthers and playing the Panthers, you're in for field day this year. And I listen, I'll be honest with you. I bet on every running back to hit the over on their run yards in prop bets when they played the Carolina Panthers. And I won a lot of money. Not going to lie to you. I won a lot of money in prop bets this year against my own team. That's sad to say, but I'm dead ass serious. All I had to do was take the over each and every week and add in a couple other prop bets. But I took the over every single week with a running back. And I was like, if I'm going to watch these running backs just run all over us, I might as well win some money for it. So at least it just eases my pain a little bit. Panther guy goes traitor, treason, off with his head, right? Off with his head. But no, I mean, seriously, no shame. No shame. Right. But again, the defensive line was getting bullied. Linebackers were out of positions. The secondary looks like they're running around with blindfolds half the time. It was a joke this season defensively, right? The most infuriating thing was just for me when it came to Ejiro Evero was the lack of adjustments. Like the first quarter, it's like Evero just throws his hands up and says, well, that's all I got. And sometimes that's the way it felt. There was just no creativity. There was no answers to what the opposing offense is throwing at us. Teams were figuring out the Panthers defense in about 5 minutes. And from there, it's open season. Third downs, you can forget it. We might as well spot the opposing offense in an automatic first down. It didn't matter if it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 15. Somehow the Panthers will give it up every time, and Evero just stands there on the sideline looking like someone who left the oven on at home and was lost and confused. And I don't blame him. You look at this roster. You look at this roster, man. Yeah, but trap set player, I'm talking about adjustments on certain things. Scheme or no scheme, you shouldn't have your linebackers going one-on-one with Drake London. And that was in the first Atlanta game. The other lack of adjustments for me, and I can name a couple more. Why is, can anybody explain to me, and I would love for you to explain it to me, why a 3-4 defense, because that's the scheme. Why isn't your best corner going up against the guys like Mike Evans? That's the lack of adjustments I'm talking about, man. It's not that you see a lot of guys, literally in the position. Yeah, they're in the position, but are they in the right position? Can you say that and go watch the game film and say that it's in the right position? You can't. I mean, Jalen McMillan, yeah, but is he the best corner on the field? I mean, is he the best wide receiver on the field? No, he's not. J.C. Horn should be on guys like Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, every single get. Chance, chance. Oh my God, chance. Because EJ thinks, I think he's talking about easy crepes, but he said EJ. Wait, I don't know. Maybe Jiro. Oh, you're talking about Jiro. My mind. EJ says he thinks linebackers can just lurk like a Madden, like it's in Madden. Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like, here's the thing, and we're gonna break again. We're going into complete context, ladies and gentlemen. This is not all on Ejiro Evero. We're just getting into Ejiro Evero. Okay, we're gonna get into the players too. Okay, but again, when you look at the run defense, and I'm talking about just after the first 6 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, we're not even going. We haven't even gotten all the way to the full scale yet, right? When you talk about the run defense, it was non-existent. Obviously, you had injuries. It's a problem. Derek Brown was hurt and has been hurt, and that's a major loss, right? Like I said earlier, you lose Shaq Thompson, who is a big time communicator, leader in the locker room of this defense, part of it, right? It seemed like JC Horn had to take on that role, right? Josie Jewell had to take on that role, be these communicative leaders on this defense. Ashawn Robinson, I think, as well. I think we saw a lot of guys step up and as a group, they still kept fighting. I think Canales is correct on that. I felt like this team was kept fighting. I don't think they stopped fighting. Oh, we can definitely say that Shy Tuttle was a waste of money trap set player. Okay. It doesn't matter what wide receivers are on the field, man. JC Horn should always be on the best receiver, scheme or no scheme. He should be transitioning over. If Mike Evans goes from the left side of the field to the right side, JC Horn should be following. If CeeDee Lamb goes to the left side of the field, he should be following. He should be. He should be following the best wide receiver on the field because nobody has yet to be able to explain to me why that's the scheme, why that fits why that is for JC Horn. Him Brown, JC Horn is an all pro, man. He got his first Pro Bowl. He had the lowest completion rate out of any corner in the NFL this year. But more often than not, I just felt like Horn wasn't on. And easy crepe. You're probably right. Surtain probably doesn't do that. But I also, what I'm saying is I just don't feel like I saw that from JC. Like I felt like I never saw him on the best wide receiver on the field. It just, again, it's mind blowing to me. No one can explain it to me, and maybe I'm wrong for thinking that way. I guess it's that bend don't break defense, right? I guess that's what it is, right? That's part of the scheme, right? I don't know. But when we talk about that run defense, man, it was just like every single week, guys aren't filling their gaps. Tackles are being missed left and right. They've completely forgotten that the whole point of defense is to stop the other team advancing the ball. It's not just bad, it's historically bad, obviously. You'd have to go back decades to find a Panthers defense that was this bad. I mean, we used to pride ourselves through our gritty defense. No? Like, look at the 2015 Super Bowl run. That was fueled by our defense that could punch you right in the mouth, make you think twice about running at us, right? And they're getting ran over, can't even make a decent tackle, half the time in this defense. But in that other defense, man, boy, it was total different days, total different time frame. Total different time frame. But the secondary, man, is clueless. Like, I don't know what Evero was telling some of these guys, though, because especially in some of the safeties, like Jordan Fuller was awful this year. Like Damani Richardson, a rookie, undrafted, was outperforming Jordan Fuller. And they sure don't seem to know what the hell they're doing back there. Like there have been multiple times where our corners are looking at each other at mid play as if to say, "Wait, you're supposed to cover him?" Like, we saw that multiple times. Meanwhile, you got a wide receiver who's 20 yards down the field, wide open. And we're talking about NFL professionals who's getting paid millions of dollars here. And it looks like they don't even know how to play basic zone coverage. I mean, we've got linebackers, like I said earlier, trying to cover Drake London one-on-one. We didn't see it that much. See that in this last game. But we definitely saw it in the first game against Atlanta. I can show you game film on it. I mean, it was an absolute joke. And the safety play, Xavier Woods, again, another guy. I'm just ready to move on from him as well. He seems to have forgotten that his job is to be the deepest guy on the field. So watching this secondary play defense is like watching someone try to assemble an IKEA furniture without instructions. You know what that is? It's just a mess. It's confusion and frustration, right? And when it came to Evero's scheme, everybody's talking about, the scheme wise. It was like, oh well, we need to go. We need to go and get go back to a 3-4-3 defense. Oh, we need to go back to a 3-4 defense. Or we need to get out of the 3-4 defense. And we need to switch back to the 4-3 defense. And you're probably right. I mean, I don't disagree with that. Like, I still have my thoughts about it. Like the problem with this 3-4 defense that failed with Ejiro Evero, and I will tell you guys this, because you can go back and watch the Saints game where they tore us up with 43 points, right? The defense is too reliant. The problem in this 3-4 defense that Evero runs is that it's too reliant on edge pressure and linebacker play. So when you do lose guys, I will admit to this, when you do lose guys like Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu, it's a system that makes no sense for the Panthers' current roster. Because when you're running a 3-4 without those type of key playmakers, it is a recipe for disaster, man. And guess what? The Panthers just served disaster on silver platters throughout the year, right? Because in theory, when you think about a 3-4 defense, okay, the 3-4 defense gives you that versatility. And what's the point of the versatility if you're not stopping anyone? That's the thing that really blew my mind, because the linebackers are struggling to generate constant pressure, and the defensive line isn't built to dominate from this alignment because you don't have a true nose tackle. You don't have an elite pass rusher on the other side. So without a true pass rusher or true pass rushers on the outside, or an outside linebacker, like I said, or a premier edge defender, whatever you want to call it. Okay. The Panthers 3-4 scheme is just wasting talent when you do that. So why stick with a broken system? And there's really no good reason to. Now, again, if you want to be that person and advocate to switch to the 4-3 defense, okay? When you want to switch to that 4-3 defense, they can switch to it. I'm not opposed to them switching to it. I'm also not opposed to them keeping the 3-4 defense. It's just you have to have the personnel to do so. Now, I think if you switch to the 4-3 defense, I definitely think it would definitely immediate play to the strengths of the personnel still in the roster. And you could compensate for the losses of guys like Burns and Luvu. Now, with a 4-3 defense, you place more emphasis on the defensive line generating pressure, which is exactly what this Panthers team needs, right? In a 4-3, you have 4 down linemen whose primary job is to win at the line of scrimmage. This is critical for 2 reasons. It allows your defensive linemen, right, to get into the backfield and disrupt the opposing quarterback. And that's something that has been virtually non-existent since week 1. And we saw that. Second, it simplifies the roles for your linebackers. It allows them to focus on coverage and run stopping instead of blitzing on nearly every play. Okay? So, and I will also say, if you want to go after guys like Mason Graham in the draft or Abdul Carter in the draft, right? The 3-4 or the 4-3, I'll tell you this. Mason Graham is better for a 4-3 defense because he can be a true nose tackle. Or he can also help Derek Brown on the other side, which would be where A'Shawn Robinson is. But you would still need a true nose tackle. But if you stick with the 3-4, I like the versatility better of Abdul Carter. If you can get him at the number 8 pick. But I think now, with us being at number 8, I think there is something to go along with that. And I posted it up on Twitter. I posted up on Twitter saying it wouldn't surprise me if they go with a safety at number 8, where they go and get Starks out of Georgia. Or they go get Starks out of Georgia. Or they get an edge. Or if McMillan's there at number 8, I wouldn't be surprised if they take him. See, the thing is that everybody thinks that we need to go with wants and needs. And sometimes in these drafts, it's better to take the best player available. And if McMillan's the best player available, Mason Graham's off the board, Starks is off the board, Abdul Carter's off the board, you take McMillan if he's on the board. I think it all depends on how this board's going to work out. Hell, they might trade back for all I know. Maybe they'll go get Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. But if we go and look, but here's the thing about Evero, and I'm going to get more into. I'm gonna break this down even more. See, Evero, I don't think Evero is a bad coach. I think he's a respectable defensive-minded guy around the league. He damn near got a head coaching job this offseason, right? I mean, but being a good coach doesn't make you a miracle worker right now. Like Evero's trying to sell. The thing is I feel like Evero right now as a defensive coordinator, he's trying to sell Ferraris with a go-kart engine, if that makes sense. Like, again, you look at what he's been working with this season, and I'm going to repeat myself again. Derek Brown gone, IR early. Shaq also out. Brian Burns traded away for picks. Frankie Louvu walked out the door to go to Washington. Again, Evero, again, was left with a nosebleed of a defense. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. Let alone, you had Baker Mayfield not too long ago drop 5 touchdowns, on them for shits and giggles. Then you go look at the Caleb Williams game against Chicago. You go look at all these games. You made Marcus Mariota look like prime Patrick Mahomes. And then you got Caleb Farley out here against Tampa Bay getting torched by Mike Evans like it's a weekly tradition. Like, if you're going to point fingers at Evero, again, I just want you to remember this. Remember, his 3-4 base scheme is not the problem. I don't think it is. I'm not opposed going back to the 4-3, but I don't think it's the end all be all. Like, the problem is the Panthers have no talent to execute it. That's the thing. Think about it this way. It's like giving a Michelin-starred chef, right? Michelin-starred chef. You give him a can of Spam, and you ask him to make you something out of that Spam, something magical, something so tasty. I don't know if anybody likes Spam. I'm not a Spam fan. But you can blame Evero for not adjusting his scheme to the lack of personnel. Sure. But there's only so much you can tweak when your linebackers can't fill their gaps, like I said, or your secondary can't cover their own shadows. And at some point, you have to ask how much blame falls on the coaching and how much is on the front office for assembling this mess in the first place. You also have to put this all in context. There's so much context to this. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, here's another thing. You can make a case for Evero staying. You can make a case for you to move on from him. Okay. I'll say this. The case for moving on is that and we're going to start with that first. Actually, no, we'll go back. We'll come back to that. There's actually something else I want to talk about. There's actually some more context I want to bring in, because let's think about it this way. We ended this 2024 season with a 5-12 record, right? And then we cementing their place in NFL history with these type of stats here for all the wrong reasons, right? Again. But you got Canales, your head coach, rookie head coach, in his first season, goes 5-12, has this resurgence with Bryce, but then he wants to keep Evero. He has this endorsement to keep Evero here. And you can sit here and say, with many teams with similar struggles are overhauling their coaching staffs, right? So the Panthers have chosen, in this instance, they've chosen continuity, or you could say, well, have they caught, or is it stubbornness? I think it depends on your perspective, right? Canales hinted potential changes within this defensive staff, right? He reaffirmed his faith in Evero. Now, this has raised some eyebrows, given the fact that this 2024 defense didn't merely falter, it imploded. right? While injuries to key players, like I said, played a role. Even a healthy unit struggled under this guy's guidance. Right? So, what again? I go back to, was it the roster or the coach? Again, I think Evero faced significant challenges with the roster largely devoid of defensive talent. You losing cornerstone players like Derek Brown and Shaq Thompson early in the season turned into an already thin unit into a full-blown liability. You could see it by midseason. Like, you're fielding players who would struggle to make a practice squad on other teams. Like, the secondary, again, was constantly outmatched. The linebacker corps lacked depth. The pass rush was non existent, man. Opposing quarterbacks had ample time in the pocket. Running backs routinely posted career high performances. This raised a lot of crucial questions. And could a more adept coach have done better, or was Evero? Here's the question: or was Evero set up to fail? Was Evero set up to fail in the first place? You can make the case of that. That's why we're breaking this down today, because you can make a case to keep him. You can make the case to get rid of him. You can make the case that he was set up to fail and this roster was depleted. It's crazy. You can make a lot of cases. There's a lot of context in this. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, we're just, I mean, we're going to go on a whole hour live stream, just talk about retaining a coach because of how depleted this defense was. So, appreciate everybody watching, by the way. We got over 40 people watching. We got 25 likes. I also see that we have 25 likes, but we have 49 votes for the YouTube live stream. There's no reason why we shouldn't be at 49 likes. So, guys, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button, okay? Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button right now. Do it now. Hit the thumbs up button, okay? That's all I ask. That right there. That's all I ask. All right? So, again, back to what I was saying. Let's talk about that scheme again. Evero scheme, it is what it is, but you can also say it was flawed execution. Evero's defensive philosophy, heavily inspired by, guess who? Vic Fangio. That name sounds familiar, doesn't it? If anybody knows football, they know who Vic Fangio is. It emphasizes and disguises and precision. So what it is it's a high risk, high reward approach. It aims to, what it does is to confuse quarterbacks and force mistakes. So while it yielded success during his time with the Denver Broncos, it has been a disaster here in Carolina. Now, here's the thing. This system, again, I'm going to tell you all this again. This system is so complex, bro. The execution and high football IQ, it takes that type of discipline. It attributes the current rosters to sorely lack. So the opponent can quickly decipher the Panthers' tendencies. So it exploiting predictable coverage schemes. And then in exposing Evero's unwillingness to adapt. You want to know a perfect example of that? A glaring example came in week 16 loss when we talk about that Dallas Cowboys game. Go watch the Dallas Cowboys game. J.C. Horn, the team's top corner, wanted to shadow CeeDee Lamb. Evero, however, stuck to his rigid scheme, allowing Lamb to dominate with 9 receptions, 116 yards, and a touchdown. And you could tell Horn expressed his frustration post-game, echoing sentiments felt throughout the locker room. He said it in a locker room interview. Right? Oh, Flame for Jesus with a $5 donation. Appreciate that, man. He says, I said at the beginning of the year, this defense will lose us games. We didn't deplete, but we replaced players with less talent. I mean, Flame for Jesus, this is what I said earlier. To me, what we did was we put just Band-Aids on the field. They're just these guys. It's just these Band-Aids that are just holding this wound. It's not really covering the room completely. It's just kind of there, if that makes sense, and so to speak. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but that's the best I can come up with. It's just depth. It's really guys who are rotational pieces. They're not even guys that are starters. I think Trevor Wallace and Josie Jewell. I think Shaq, definitely Clowney, DJ Wonnum, guys like that. Jordan Fuller, but there's certain guys like Jordan Fuller, Caleb Williams, Dane Jackson, or not Caleb Williams, Caleb Farley, Dane Jackson, those guys are not those are not guys that are going to fill the void of losing guys who are actually true starters, right? I mean, Dane Jackson was a third string, or was the third corner on the Bills since he was drafted. Like, he was listed third on their depth chart. So it's just like, I mean, he's not a true starter. He's not even a CB2, right? And they were expecting him to start. And that's why they went and got Mike Jackson, because they knew they needed a CB2. And Mike Jackson's a serviceable at best corner, in my opinion. But shout out to you, Flame for Jesus. I appreciate you always showing some love and support here. So I appreciate you with that $5 donation. It always goes a long way. So shout out to you, man. Gotta hit you with that. I had to hit you with that. I had to hit him with that $5 dono. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Now, let me continue to say this. This was a historically bad defense. Like, this defense, again, it wasn't just bad, man. It was just historically terrible. Just plain and simple. That's all it was. Easy Crepe says, Thielen talk about retirement decisions, though. Well, Easy Crepe, he does it every year. He's been doing it since he reached his 30s, he said. And if he feels like he can't play, he won't. If he feels like he can keep going, then he will. So we shall see. It's all, he always takes the first 2 weeks he says, to figure that out. So we'll find out. But week after week, blown coverages, missed assignments, led to big plays. That's why we saw this team be called the worst defense in the NFL. The run defense was particularly atrocious, with opposing running backs treating Carolina's front seven like practice dummies. Evero's refusal to adjust his scheme again as the season spiraled out of control, ladies and gentlemen, compounded these issues. Well, Panther guy was Miles Sanders was injured for the most of the year. But opposing offenses felt little resilience by our defense, man. And as the Panthers became painfully predictable, and adaptability is the hallmark of a great coach, something Evero failed to demonstrate. Trap set player one. I don't. What do you disagree with? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, your stats are staring right at you at the face. What do you disagree with? Like again, here's the thing about this misfit scheme that the 3-4 defense that people just still don't understand is that on a 3-4 defensive scheme as well, it has been a glaring misstep. So again, when you lose guys, like I said earlier in the show, when you lose guys like Brian Burns, you lose guys like Frankie Louvu, and thriving in their roles, the alignment has been a disaster, right? So when you lose guys like that, and you lose Derek Brown, and then you lose all these guys, right? You lose the Luvus and you lose Brian Burns in the offseason. You lose these guys with injuries. The defensive line just continued to struggle to generate pressure while overmatching linebackers. And what happened is that you overmatched the linebackers who failed to fill their gaps or cover effectively. And then if you return to a 4-3 base defense, it could play to the strengths of that roster. Like I said earlier, you simplify the assignments for the defensive line. Yeah, but Can you guys hear me now? Sorry about that. We lost the connection there for some reason. I do not know why. For some reason we need to update this. Guys, can y'all guys hear me now? Okay. Can you guys hear me? Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. I have no idea what's going on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Mic check. I hope so. I don't know why it keeps doing this, but it's up to date now. Sorry about that. Better. Okay. Sorry about that, dude. Sorry. It's a new mic. It's got a whole like software to it, all of this stuff. I'm still learning it, so bear with me. But should be fine. We should be good to go. Wait, blink stream. That's crazy. And then what's this? Okay. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff with this stuff right now. It is crazy stuff with these new mics. So it's a whole new system I'm working with, man. Working a whole new system over here. All right, so back to what I was saying. Good conversation with everybody in the chat. So let me get back to this misfit scheme because I think that's what I was on, right? And we're talking about Evero's insistence on running a 3-4 defensive scheme, and it has been a glaring misstep, right? Because again, what I was mentioning earlier was players like you lose guys like a Frankie Louvu, you lose a guy like Brian Burns, and then you lose guys in the offseason. Then you lose guys this year like Derek Brown. You lose Josie Jewell for a couple of weeks in the year. You lose DJ Wanham till up to week 10. You lose Jeremy Chin in the offseason. You lose Derek Brown to an injury. You lose Shaq Thompson to an injury. And you're left with these Band-Aid guys at best. Right? You lose you get these Band-Aids. Right? And again, the defensive line struggled to generate pressure. We saw that. Overwhelming mismatches for our linebackers to fill their gaps. We saw that. Or linebackers not covering effectively. You return if you want to choose to return to a 4-3 defense. Again, it could play to the strengths of this roster, but simplifying assignments for the defensive line, you allow linebackers to focus on coverage and run stopping, forcing a system ill suited to the personnel has only exacerbated this team struggles. And then you talk about you could see that the Derrick Brown absence loomed large over our heads this game. Like loomed large. Like losing Derrick Brown to that injury this off season or during what was it after week 1 was a devastating blow. I mean, Brown's ability to anchor the defensive line and disrupt opposing offenses is the unmatched on the roster. Without him, the middle of the defense became a glaring weakness. While Deshaun Williams brought familiarity with Evero's scheme from time in Denver, he lacked the dominance to fill Brown's shoes. You to improve in 2025. I think this offseason for us, we have to prioritize strengthening this defensive line through the draft, through free agency, depth and talent in the trenches are essential to any successful defense. Now, again, I want to make things clear about Ejiro Evero, though. I am holding Evero accountable. Corner Evero's shoulders it does have a significant blame for this defense debacle. Again, his rigid adherence to a failing scheme, a questionable personnel decisions, worsened an already dire situation. To redeem himself in this approach that they're taking, he has to simplify his approach going forward with this defense. He has to make timely adjustments to this defense. Put players in positions to succeed rather than forcing them into ill-fighting roles. A rebuild, this is a rebuild. This is not a patch job. That's what they did this offseason to this defense. It was patches. The Panthers need more than minor adjustments. They require a full defensive rebuild. And I say this, the front office must focus on acquiring impact players at every level of the defense, drafting wisely, spending aggressively in free agency. It's non-negotiable at this point. Another season of patchwork fixes will only lead to continued failure, ladies and gentlemen. Right? The case for keeping Evero, I'll say this, is despite everything that we can argue about, there are arguments for retaining Evero. There's arguments of not retaining Evero. He's a respected coach with a track record of success when given the right tools. But couldn't you make the case? But you could also make that argument for a quarterback in the NFL. A quarterback in the NFL can be really good if he's got the weapons to do it. You can make that case. I mean, look at Jared. I think Jared Goff is a absolutely perfect, an absolutely perfect example of that. So I mean, for Evero, you give him the tools, you give him a premier edge rusher, you build up that defensive line, you add to that linebacker depth, you grab a decent safety to fill the void of Xavier Woods and Jordan Fuller, because I don't see them coming back next year, and they shouldn't. Adding into the cornerback room, stability is crucial for rebuilding a team, and constant turnover at the coordinator position rarely fosters improvement. However, if you think that the Panthers commit to Evero They must also commit to providing him the resources necessary to succeed. This includes personnel upgrades, and willingness to adjust the defensive philosophy. But I've also heard, like I told y'all earlier in the show, for some of you guys that are just tuning in, I did hear earlier from a reliable source that they're gonna keep Evero. They're gonna keep Evero here, but it does come with some stipulations. There has some stipulations. I've heard that there might be some guys come that on this staff that won't be here next year, and that they're going to hire guys that they want to bring in along Evero. And I don't know if it's Canales' guys or if it's who's going to choose that. But all I know is that there has been a rumor that that could be a case. And if he doesn't go along with it, so if Evero doesn't go along with what they ask of him, then he will no longer be here. But as of right now, they're going to retain Evero. So I don't know how much that's truly is. My final thoughts on this, though, this whole ordeal, and I appreciate y'all staying around and tuning in. And I apologize for the audio issues there for a second. I don't know what happened there. But again, the Panthers stand at a crucial situation. You retain Evero. It's a calculated risk, and the team has a little room for error, without significant personnel upgrades, and meaningful changes to their defensive approach. I mean, the mistakes of 2024, I think, will undoubtedly be repeated. Like, the Panthers must choose between bold action and another year of futility at best. Like, you got to adapt, invest, improve, or you're going to face the same results. So here's the thing. This is the way I look at it. If the rumors are true and they keep Evero, if the rumors are true, right? So you can make the case in the argument of keeping Evero. And I'll say this: if you want to make the case of keeping Evero, stability matters. The guy has a proven track record of success even when he's had mediocre talent to work with. He's creative. He's innovative at times. I'll give him credit where it's due. I'm giving him his respected credit. He's respected, and he's been handed the football equivalent of a soggy cardboard box. Okay? If you're going to rebuild this defense, which you're going to have to, then why not do it with a coach who knows what he's already doing? You already got Bryce Young on a rookie deal, which means you've got a short window to load up on talent and make a run before the cap crunch comes calling. I think if you give Evero an NFL caliber players, see what happens. It's not rocket science. Like, let's be clear. If you stick with Evero, you can't half-ass this rebuild this offseason for this defense. This defense needs a complete overhaul. New linebackers, new defensive line, maybe even new quarters. You draft a guy like Mason Graham out of Michigan to anchor the defensive line if you decide to switch to a 4-3, or you grab that versatile edge rusher like Abdul Carter if you're going to stick with the 3-4. But for the love of God, spend some money in free agency. You've got cap space. Use it. Stability doesn't mean stagnation. Keep Evero only makes sense if you're fully committed to giving him the tools to succeed. Now, you could make the case to move on from Evero. And I'll leave it at this. Here's my case if you believe that they shouldn't have retained Evero. They should have moved on because you just felt like it wasn't working out. Sometimes things just don't work out, right? Evero's scheme hasn't clicked in Carolina. Whether it's because personnel reasons, coaching, bad karma. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is this: defense has been historically bad. If you're thinking a fresh start is the only way to fix it, then pull the damn trigger, right? Don't keep Evero here. Now, I know they're saying that there is, but if they decided for some reason they didn't want to continue forward, then maybe if they got a different defensive coordinator who's better suited to coaching up raw talent, maybe Evero's 3-4 defense and scheme just didn't fit the roster. And obviously, if you're going to blow it all up anyways, why not bring in someone to oversee the rebuild? Like, you got one shot to get that right, though, when you bring in another guy. So if you have even a shadow of the doubt that about Evero, then Carolina should have made that call. But they obviously don't have any doubt about him. You see, the thing is the team doesn't have to have time to make half measurements, right? Half-ass calls. Okay, you need someone to can hit the ground running immediately, start building a defense that actually can compete. There's no room for wishful thinking when your franchise is in crisis mode. So they chose to go with the stability route, even in this chaos. That's what they did, and I think it might be the smarter route because stability does matter. The guy does have a proven track record to have success. Like I said earlier, with mediocre talent. I think he is creative. I think he is innovative as a defensive coordinator. He just doesn't have the talent after what, and that's the biggest issue here. So whether Evero decides to stick with the 3-4 or if he goes back to the 4-3, the guys that we see them get this offseason in free agency and in the draft for the defense really is going to tell me a lot what they're going to do going forward from the scheme situation. Like I said, if they go and try to draft a guy like Mason Graham out of Michigan, they're going to switch to the 4-3. But if they're going to go grab a versatile edge like Abdul Carter, they're going to stick with the 3-4. So we'll see. Now at number 8, I don't know if those guys will be there. Either one of them will be there. It's just like I said earlier on Twitter. I don't know. So let's see here. I listen, I don't know if it's true, Chance. Again, it could just be a rumor, but I've heard that from a very reliable source that they're going to get rid of some of the Evero that they could be getting rid of Evero staff, and if Evero goes along with it, then he'll still be here. But I've also heard the rumor that if he doesn't go along with it, he won't be. But as of right now, it sounds like Dave Canales wants to keep him here. So, which I don't think that's not true. I think Dave Canales does want to keep him here. He seems like that kind of guy. But again, rumors are rumors. We won't know anything until it actually happens, right? So at the end of the day, only time will tell. But as of right now, they're retaining him. Is it the right decision? We'll find out. And it all depends on if they. We'll find out. So I'm going to get to some of your comments that I missed. Kendall Justice. So does this also mean he's not allowed to take a head coaching interviews if requested? I have not heard that yet, Kendall. If people are interested, they'll reach out, I'm sure, but I don't know if that means if he can't. I really don't know. If someone wants to answer that question, I'm not too sure. I would have to dive deeper in my bag to answer that question for you, but I'm not too sure. I don't think so. I think that if they decided to commit to him, I don't think he's allowed to take head coaching interviews if requested. I don't think so, but I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. like a new defensive staff, just new defensive staff around him. They're going to get rid of some of his guys, from my understanding, and they were going to bring in their own. Whether Dave Canales was going to bring in his own guys, or Dan Morgan had some guys in mind, I don't know. Or maybe Evero has some guys in mind. I don't know. Some other guys in mind. I don't know exactly, but it could be a possibility that they are looking at that direction. It's not a rumor, Clay. They're keeping Evero. They just said. I mean, I get that. I'm not saying that it's not. Listen, all I'm going to say is, Flame for Jesus, the person that I got this source from, let's just say he's pretty on point. I would give him a solid 8 out of 10 times. So trust me on that one. Now that I agree with. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, I love beating Atlanta too, Flame for Jesus. I love seeing those schmucks face all upset, because they thought that they thought, Flame for Jesus, Atlanta fans really thought that they were going to the Super Bowl this year. They really thought that they put it all together with Raheem Morris there in Atlanta. They really thought that. And I told them on the NFC South Roundtable show that to be the man, you have to beat the man. And if you go look at Tampa Bay's schedule for Tampa Bay schedule for the rest of the season, you could tell that they were going to win that game. You could tell they were going to win, or when that went out. You could tell Tampa was going to win out. The way Baker Mayfield and those guys were playing, man. Word on the street is the Jets are looking at Carter. I don't know why. They don't need edge rusher there. They need another quarterback. They need an offensive line. I just don't think you go and get another edge rusher. They've got enough. Don't they have enough edge rushers there in New York? Like, that would make no sense to me. I think a full year with Robinson, Wanu, Brown, and Clowney will make all the difference. It could. I think that they've got to add more depth to those positions, and I think they need to go ahead and get their future edge rusher. Ropp, what's your thoughts on Mykel Williams? My thoughts on Mykel Williams. That's a good question. He's definitely, listen, if you go Mykel Williams out of Georgia, listen, I think he can be a very good draft pick. When you look at his scouting report, like when you go look at this guy's scouting report, man, 6'5", 265, man, good size, frame, appears to have long arms. Against the run, he's strong and physical at the point of the attack. And he can gain control of the blockers, get extension very well when you watch him in Georgia. Very impressive upper body strength, and is violent when shedding blocks to escape against offensive linemen. Impressive movement skills, athleticism, to grow as a pass rusher at the next level. If he uses his use of hands improves. Now, I'll say this, he has flashed a solid long arm move, and he has the motor to collapse the pocket. Good agility to be effective looper on line games. The only thing I have to say is for him is that when you go watch him, he's a little late to react off the snap and not as explosive off the line, especially for how athletic he is. But he often ends up chest to chest, or allows, offensive linemen to get into his body when rushing the passer. And that's just due to him being late most of the time. And he's inaccurate with his hands when you go watch his game film. So he struggles to work the hands after contact. That's the biggest thing. He doesn't have like that true go-to move that he can win with consistently at the next level. Now, the pass rush lane integrity, gap discipline against the run, that's the biggest thing I see in his downfall. He's just very poor at that. Like, he likes to gamble and duck inside, and either he loses contain on the quarterback or he creates a rushing lane, right? So it's late, and he's also late to recognize and doesn't always get under pullers as the spill player in run fits. So again, 5-star recruit, really hasn't had a lot of injuries. He was on all SEC. He's got plenty of traits to give him a high ceiling in the NFL. I mean, he has impressive size. He's got the strength. He moves pretty well for the most part. He's also shown some position versatility in college when you go watch him. So having lined up as a 4 technique defensive end and has a stand-up outside linebacker. He's a versatile guy as well. I like that about him. Again, to see Michael Williams kind of reminds me of the Brian Burns because his biggest flaw is against the run. Like, he's strong and physical and he'll take on blocks, but his upper body strength to get an extension against offensive linemen is also huge. So, but his biggest flaw is gap discipline in recognizing pullers. Those are his issues, and those are easily fixable. I think he has some work to do as a pass rusher, though. Right now, he'll occasionally win the pure strength and athleticism when you watch him. He has the quickness. He's got the movement skills to develop. However, his use of hands are mediocre at best. So I think sometimes he also tries to just use his strength to overpower offensive line, and that's just not the case. Again, he has flashed some solid long arms, and ability to win with power, but he lacks a go-to move that he can win if he's in the NFL. So traits are worthy of betting. I would say this: if you're going to bet on him based off traits, and if you're a team that uses a lot of even fronts and is looking to hand it in the ground, like if you're looking for a guy who is going to put his hand in the ground defensive end, he'll likely take a year or two to flesh out his game and become an impact and be an every down player. So I like him. I think he's I think he could be a potential impact player. And I think he's at best a second round pick. I don't think he's a first round pick. I would take him in the second round. That's just me. When I watch this game film, and I've been getting my draft board ready for you guys, obviously, because we're gonna be doing a lot of draft content. We should we got to start looking at these guys, man. I just don't see it in Michael Williams though. Chance to Fapper. You should be a scout for the Panthers. I wish. That'd be sick. That would be sick. Listen, if I'm taking a chance on anybody, and let's say Abdul Carter, let's say we're going defense, right? Okay. And I'm in the first round. I got that 8th pick. We're not going to trade it back. Let's say, all these, the 2 guys defensively I want is Mason Graham and Abdul Carter off the board. And I'm at number 8. I'm taking probably Nick Swartzen out of Texas A&M. That would be my next guy to go after. I like Nick Swartzen out of A&M than I do Michael Williams. So if I'm going defense there, or I take Starks, I get the safety I need. I take Starks out of Georgia. Would like for us to get Graham in the first. Hope Kyle Kennard from South Carolina is in the second. Hey, Brian, if Graham is in the first, I would take him, and then I would go Kyle Kennard in the second myself. If Graham's not there and if Carter's there, you take Carter. If neither one of them are there, I think you just got to take the player that's going to give you the most impact on the field. So, which means I think you take the best player available. Now, if they don't decide to go that part, well, then you either go get you trade back. I love Starks. I feel like Xavier Watts would be a steal in the second, not gonna lie. Yeah. I just think if Mason Graham and Abdul Carter's not there, you either trade back or you take a Malachi Starks. I think it's Malachi Starks. Is that his first name? Yeah, it's Malachi. I don't know what I'm thinking. It's definitely Malachi. But yeah, definitely Malachi Starks. That's how my jock draft's been looking like, Brian. Unpopular opinion. Hunter falls because of the fiance. Tribe said it. I wouldn't be surprised by that, man. That's a whole different situation with that guy. Travis Hunter, again, the thing is for me about Travis Hunter, is he gonna be a wide receiver or is he gonna be a corner? Where is he gonna be the most impactful at too? So I don't know. We'll see, guys. We'll definitely do some mock drafts here soon. I'm still getting my draft board ready. I still got a lot of work to do on that. So, which obviously with the playoffs going on, which we might do a playoff breakdown if y'all would like to do that. But we might have to do some playoff breakdowns and then do some do some mock drafts. 100% a corner. 8 is a kind of weird spot. That's where we picked JC Horn, right? Was JC Horn the 8th pick or was he a 7th pick? Or am I thinking Derek Brown was the 7th pick and JC Horn was an 8th pick? Both first round picks, but one of them was 9th? I'm trying to remember. Someone's gonna have to refresh my memory on that. You talk about the nose tackle from Kentucky in the second. You're talking about Deion Walker playing for Jesus. You're talking about Deion Walker from Kentucky. Dude's an absolute hoss. Listen, I thought the same thing about Tavondre Sweat, and he's actually panned out very well there in Tennessee. I was huge Sweat fan last year, or Sweat out of Texas last year. I was a huge fan of him, and he turned out pretty good. I think Deion Walker is going to be a stud in the NFL. I think he's going to be a steal in the second round because he's not a first round pick. A guy like that is not a first round pick. Most of the time, those nose tackles like that aren't first round picks most of the time. That's why, so I would go after, Deion Walker would be a stud. I'd love to have Abdul Carter and Deion Walker in the first 2 picks. Or I want Mason Graham and Kyle Kennard. Actually, in my fantasy world, I would love to have Abdul Carter and TJ Sanders. Or if I could have Kyle Kennard and Abdul Carter, that would, then your edge rushers would be set for the next 10 years. But in a real world, It's just not the case. If we could get Carter in the first, I would absolutely take Walker. Honestly, it's either Walker or I take TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. Kyle Kennard and TJ Sanders will be in the second round, but if Kyle Kennard, if Abdul Carter, we get Abdul Carter, I either want TJ Sanders or definitely want Walker. Josh Sweat is a Chance the Fapper. Josh Sweat is going to be a free agent, so you could pair him up with a free agency if you get a Josh Sweat to come here. Wouldn't be opposed to that. You're thinking the exact same thing I am. Throw one. Yeah. Listen, man, we'll definitely break it down. We'll definitely break it down this week, probably tomorrow. So because there's no NFC South roundtable tomorrow night. So that will be so I'm probably just gonna do another live show tonight, tonight. So same time, EST 8:30. Be here or be gay, whichever one you want to be. So appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you become a member today. Make sure you join the Discord. Also, follow me on all my social media. Check out BetUS. Sign up for free today. Get 150% bonus on your next 3 bets up to $2,000. The NFL playoffs are starting up here soon. We'll probably we're going to definitely do an NFL playoff breakdown. Also, I guess I'll be there. And then also make sure you check out all my social media, even my TikTok. My TikToks are the same thing as my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. 2 Grouse More says, "Bro, you kill me." The ending. Be here or be gay. Just kidding. I'm just messing. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Keep pounding. I'm out of here. Peace.